this video, we're going to be talking about what things should you be looking for when you want to buy a car for your car rental business. And listen, there's a mistake that I see people make all the time. They buy a car because they specifically like that car, or they just go right on Turo's website and they're like, oh, well, Turo says this car does really well across the country, so that's the car that I want. It's not the way to do it. You really have to make sure you're doing your market research, and that's what we're gonna be diving into today. So hey guys, it's Peter with Car Rental Coach. If you're looking to start a car rental business or scale your current business, then make sure to hit the little subscribe button. And also, if you're a person that's serious about scaling your car rental business, or you want to start a business, but you're serious, you want 10 cars, you want 20 cars, I want you to go to carrentalcoach.com. There we have a nice 60-second survey for you to fill out. That'll tell me if you're qualified to work with us. If you are, you get prompted to book a call with me and my team. I'd love to talk to you to see how we can take your business to the next level. All right, so we've been Turo hosts for a couple years now. We have over 60 cars. The number one thing that you should be looking at when you're buying a car is return on investment, or for short, ROI. Now, when I say ROI, what do I mean? And the way that I'm gonna break this down for you guys is going to be specifically when we are buying cash cars. So, we're talking about ROI. The first thing that I want you to do if you're looking at starting a car rental business is you have to go on Turo, and I want you to look at the different cars in your market, right? Now, I don't just want you to look at the cars and say like, oh, this is a nice one. This one rents out for $60 a day. This one rents out for $70 a day. I want you to actually go on to the person's profile, go over to the calendar. It's better to do this at the end of the month because Turo typically only lets you look back about a month at this. But you can actually see how many days that car has been booked for within basically a 30-day period. If you do it at the end of the month, you can see that whole month. But I want you to go and look at that. Specifically, look for cars that are actually being rented. Just because you go on Turo and you see, well, this guy rents out a car for $60 a day, that does not mean that the car is actually renting. But the nice thing is that with this little tip, you can see whose cars are actually renting, so now you can get a solid idea of how much money you're gonna make, right? Now, typically, the next thing that goes into this is now you have to decide, what kind of fleet do I wanna build? Do I want a fleet of luxury cars? Do I want a fleet of economy cars? If you're new here, we are personally a fan of economy cars because I like the cars to be paid off within 6 months to a year, especially if we're buying them cash. And with economy cars, that's realistic because they're bringing anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 a month. And we're gonna get into those numbers a little bit more because a lot of people have been asking, well, what money do you actually make off of that? And that's what I'm gonna break down to kind of give you an idea. But regardless, first thing is that you wanna make sure that you've done your research. You looked at other cars, you see what cars are good, you figure out, do I want economy, do I want luxury? Luxury, I mean, it's good, you do get more money from it. I'm personally against it just because the maintenance costs are significantly higher, especially when something unpredictable happens, then they do kind of nail you for luxury cars. But you will have more revenue that's coming in, which could possibly equate to more profit, just depending on, surprise instances don't happen to you. Now, let's get into the weeds of the ROI here, specifically from a financial perspective. So when I'm going to buy a car, typically, just like I said, I like to buy cash cars. What I'm looking for is, can the car pay itself back within ideally 6-month time frame, but always within a year. I always want it to be where that car can produce enough revenue to be able to pay itself back in a year. Now, I'll give you guys 2 examples. Here's a good example, right? Let's say that you're looking for a car, you find a 2019 Ford Fiesta. If you're buying it the way we're buying it, which is pretty well, you could probably get that car for $7,000 or $8,000. Now, here's the way that I'm going to look at it. Remember, just like I said, I'm gonna go on Turo's website, I'm gonna look to see, okay, what is the average that car is renting out for? All right, so I do my research here, I'm taking a look at, okay, Ford Fiestas in Pittsburgh. Oh, okay, and this is hypothetical, I'm not actually looking, I'm just giving you guys an idea. Let's say a Ford Fiesta rents out for 45 days a month. Now, most people see that and they're like, oh, 45 days a month. And let's say that rents out for an average of 25 days. That's what we shoot for on a monthly basis. That means that the car would bring in $1,125. Most people will be like, oh, that's great. But it doesn't actually bring in $1,125 because you have a split with Turo. Now, depending on what your split is going to depend how much money that actually comes to you. Now, this is not going to include any sort of cleaning fees or return trip fees or smoking fees. This is not including any of that. This is purely based off of rental income. That is the only thing that I'm talking about here in this video. So for example's sake, let's say that you're on the 80-20 plan for Turo. What does that mean? Turo gets 20%, you get 80%. Now, and for those of you that know how it works with Turo is that they take that money on a per trip basis, not every day that the trip is out, but when they're actually paying you. So if it's out for 2 weeks, they pay you pretty periodically. But if it's a trip that's out for 3 days, you get paid after the 3 days and they take the 20% there. Little tidbit just so that you guys know. But the point is back to this example. If you get 20% of that $1,125, so that'd be $225, which means that you are netting $900 a month. Now, there are a couple different ways of what you can do with that $900. Specifically for me, I will set aside money for other things. I actually have a video that you guys can check out on the YouTube. I'll make sure it's linked here where it breaks down every specific thing. But for this example specifically, which is doing research, you have $900 that's coming in. $900 total price of the car. So if the total price of the car is $8,000, you're making your money back in 12 months. That would be a good buy. Now let me give you an example of a bad buy. Let's say that same Ford Fiesta, instead of it costing you $8,000, it cost you $16,000. Well, if it costs you $16,000 and the car can't pay for itself in a year, then personally, I would not make that investment myself. I like to be able to get a solid return on the cars as quick as possible. That's why I'm super particular about us sourcing cars. And George has also talked about in another video. We get cars from auction, we get cars from Craigslist, we get cars from Facebook Marketplace. We are constantly looking for the best deal possible. Excuse me. And the reason why is because it's a business. I'm running a business so that I can have profit so that I can take care of my family. I'm not going to buy something just because I like it or without doing the proper research. So that's really the main point about this video is that do your research, run your numbers, and also I'd like you to watch that other video to break down the numbers because you also need to set aside money for insurance, for maintenance, for tires, anything else. I like to set aside just a little bit of money on a monthly basis. So when my cars do need those things, the money is always there. So another big thing I want to talk about with doing research, the first is specifically I want you to look at your market. The second big thing is I want you to run basically how much money that you'd be making off of that vehicle based off of the amount of market research that was done. The third thing I want you to do is look at the reliability of the vehicle. Now, I have bought cars that are unreliable. I've bought cars that are reliable. Love my Mirages, reliable cars. Anytime they have an issue, very easy to fix. Car that's not reliable, Chevy Cruze, specifically 2016. The car just always had some kind of weird issue, whether it was a steering problem or it just was always something weird where the car was always going in. Make sure that you are looking up and look all over. Do research to see what the reliability of the car is. That's a big deal because that directly will eat into how much money that you're making if the car is always going in for some kind of maintenance issue. Huge thing when it comes to doing your research beforehand. But yeah, so those are the three things that I would really pay attention to when you're looking to buy a car. Do your market research, see how the other cars are doing, real research. Look at how much money that car will make you after the split. Do not do it before the split because that's not the money that comes to you. And third, make sure you're researching the reliability of the car. Because if the car is always in for service, those are days that you're not making money. So again, if you're serious about scaling this business, go to carrentalcoach.com. Would love to hear from you guys. Thank you.